Yeah, and I think it is the integration piece that would allow you to see it, and the facilitator piece that then kind of makes you do something about it, right? Like move through it.
Yeah.
Acknowledge it, call it out, and
totally.
yeah.
And that's where I was started to think about the power of both. Sure, they each have their own merits in isolation. I've definitely used them and pulled on them when needed. But it's that power of the two together. Like I feel like there is this dynamic duo between the two that is, they are better together. Where, integration makes the business run, and facilitation makes it run better. Facilitation of the people with the processes and systems makes it run better. And I'm a big fan of change management, and people are probably rolling their eyes because I've said this like 100 times over our 7 episodes or whatever to date. So that's a lot. But, John Cotter, big guy in change management, says there's kind of 3 steps, right? You set a direction, usually your vision strategy, you set and communicate that direction. You align your people and your resources to do it. And then you coach and you manage to effectively execute it. He also says step number 2 is where most organizations fail. They go from set direction to just doing before they truly align.
Yes.
And that is a hard part, right? You can get really excited working on what the future plan looks like, and you just want to start to move into action, and people just want to know, what do I need to do? But that alignment part is really hard. And I think that's where integration and facilitative leadership come together.
Yeah.
Really, really beautifully. So I would say for folks, no matter what in what capacity you are as a leader, you likely are having to lead a group of people through some change of some sort. So think about when you come to that alignment stage, how are you pulling on these two?
Yeah.
And then okay. I was
agree.
like, wow,
Sorry.
Bonnie's speechless.
I agree.
And then, thinking about making this a bit practical, and I'd love to get into kind of skills in a little bit, but to be like, okay, so what does this start to look like in practice? One kind of call out or thing I want to explore is some organizations or some management systems, philosophies, pedagogies are so bought into the need for integration, they create entire roles that are named integrator.
Right.
So an EOS or entrepreneurial operating system, which we've mentioned before that our organization runs on, there is a role in your organization for a person strictly called integrator.
Yeah.
And this is all you do. And sure, they have their kind of philosophy around, you have rocks, you have your IDS, you have your 3-year picture, you have your guarantee, you have all of these things. You have your meeting pulse, that it's the job of this integrator to connect and get all of those things into a flow or humming along. So I think it's really interesting that there's some philosophies out there that are so bought into this, they created an entire role. With that being said, I think, yes, integration is a key part of an integrator's role, but you don't need to be an integrator to integrate.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I don't think they are like solely dependent. You don't have to have one to be the other. So I would encourage anybody in any type of role, like integration can be part of your role and how you do your job effectively.
Yeah. So maybe it is still a role, but not necessarily your job, like the role.
Yeah,
and
how you do your stuff.
Yeah. And I've been thinking about that for facilitation too. Like there are facilitators, like workshop facilitators, right? Which I think the facilitative leadership skill is definitely a skill that most facilitators, great facilitators have.
Yes.
But that's not to say that if you're not a workshop facilitator, that facilitative leadership is not still a skill that you should practice and can kind of benefit you in your role. So yeah, thanks for setting that up and having me jump on that train for facilitation. But it is around kind of creating this, I don't know, super organism is I think what HBR also refers to it. The 1 + 1 is 3, which we've said before. An interesting insight there, which again, if you equate it to sports, it makes a lot of sense too. Like, it's not that when you put all of the most brilliant people together, or the top 10 brilliant in what's most intelligent people together, that you will have a brilliant team.
Yeah.
Like the brilliant teams are the ones that work together in that flow and kind of really work based on that kind of equity, trust, psychological safety piece. And that's also what an MIT study found out across 1,300 teams. The higher collective intelligence groups outperformed regular teams by 44%. And the key drivers were, again, equal voices, psychological safety.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's kind of, rounding it up of like, what does a team like look like? It's not just putting brilliant people together. I think it's more so maybe a brilliant integrator facilitator that brings the best out of everyone in that group.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And it's funny you say, what's the right term? Like I came across, I subscribed to a ton of newsletters and was sitting in her office last week prepping for this episode and thinking through it. And Juliana, who works on the podcast with us, was sitting beside me. I was like, oh, Juliana, McKinsey also agrees with us. And they came out, their headline was, the best leaders are the ultimate integrators. I was like, oh, so is there something here? Ultimate integrator, super facilitator. Anyway, I'm not a copywriter, so we'll leave that for folks that know what they're doing there. But I do think there's some pretty cool stuff there that is leading towards this is what sets great leaders apart, right? As we evolve, and there's definitely a time and a place for it, but how can you integrate through a facilitated approach?
Yep.
Are there any real world, we've mentioned some of our clients, any real world examples or relevant examples that now looking at the two of these together that you go, oh, maybe this person, that's what they were actually doing and no one ever just called it that?
Yeah. And I tend to always go to like the bigger examples, but there are definitely some like closer to home as well, but ones that everyone would be familiar with. And I think it taps into this interesting dynamic of they're often unseen, or they are, at least to date, seem to be the people that are the second in command or like the behind the scenes. But Satya Nadella at Microsoft, I think, is a great example where it was actually the CEO, or like he was the CEO, right? So he was in full spotlight, and what he did was changing the approach from a command and control and what some said was a very toxic work environment to a culture of trust, collaboration, psychological safety, and kind of brilliance coming out of teamwork and collaboration. Very cool. I think that's a nice one where I think we're seeing what we will be seeing a lot more, because I think these skill sets will start to be recognized and rewarded and kind of put in the spotlight a lot more in the coming years.
And maybe that sheds light on my first question of, I don't know why these haven't been showcased. And maybe it's always kind of the operator in the background that's doing it, so they don't, they're not in the spotlight as much and maybe don't want to be. I don't know.
There might be a part of that too. Yeah. But I think society just had, I don't know, maybe that comes with generations or like where we are in the world. Yeah. We were in need of ideas or new things or innovation. And now we have a lot of that, and we need to actually bring them to life.
Do something with them. Yeah. And it's, as you were describing that, it makes me think of someone that works at one of the sister agencies or organizations to us. And, I don't want folks to leave with the idea of they've probably all been facilitated by a workshop facilitator who has got passion and energy, enthusiasm. And you're like, oh my gosh, how much caffeine did they have today, right? But there are like silent, quiet ways to do this. And I think sometimes the best integrators and facilitators are the quiet ones in the room. They should be the ones listening all the time and guiding, right? So I don't also want people to go like, I'm a bit more introverted, I don't speak up as much, or I don't like being the center of attention. There are ways to integrate and exercise facilitative leadership in your own way through more smaller, quieter moments. And I think of the woman that we work with, and she's brilliant at it, right? And I think people, it's kind of like they don't know it's happening to them, and then they leave a room being like, whoa, we just answered so many things, and like I felt heard, and I'm bought in on what's going on, and I understand what everybody's doing. Like, it's pretty fascinating to see it come to light in different ways that isn't, being in the limelight, or the one that likes to speak up or be a loud voice in the room.
And to your earlier point, in talking to her, she's also not looking for that recognition or the tap on the shoulder of like, oh, you did a great job. It's truly what she enjoys doing and where she gets kind of her.
And I relate to that. I'm
from.
like, I probably err on the side of over integrating and over indexing on facilitative leadership because I just love it so much, right? Like I just love doing it and it's a big motivation for me. I like the outcomes of it and the benefits of it. And I am the one that's always thinking about what are the patterns and connections and have to be careful not to over pattern things either, right?
Make it too complex.
Yeah. But I'd love to go to the question as we're kind of bouncing around here a little bit of like, and you touched on it a smidge earlier of like, so can anyone actually do this, right? Everybody has their strengths. We've talked about some of this will come innately to others. Can everybody actually do this? Is everyone capable of it?
Yeah. I mean, I equate it to running a marathon. Like, I think in theory, everyone's capable of running a marathon as long as you really want it, you train for it, you put your mind to it, you shift other things. I think you can do it. Situations, circumstances might have to be matching kind of where you are at with it. So yes, I do think it is a skill set that can be learned, but with anything, you do really need to want it, see the value of it. So maybe you need to experience it. And when I look at myself, I think I've seen myself in roles where I think people saw me as this integrator, facilitator, and it was totally kind of that creating flow was what I lived for and what was truly my kind of driving my satisfaction in my role. And I've been in other places where that part of me did not necessarily come out that naturally. So I think there's also something around every group of people, every organization is a system in and itself.
Yeah.
And it depends a little bit on the other players who takes on this role.
Yeah.
So there might not always be the right place and time and circumstances for it. But yes, I do think everyone can learn.
Yeah.
And like with running a marathon, it is, I think, also the art of starting small. A technique that I recently learned about, so I'm committed to kind of practicing that, is one that comes from the art world, but IDEO, design thinking, kind of has fully embraced it for the more business context of it, is something called visual thinking strategies. And counter to what the name might imply, it's not about like drawings or putting things up on a wall. It's truly a discussion technique where just kind of practicing 3 questions, you all take the art example, you take a painting, and the facilitator guides you through a discussion asking 3 simple questions. What are we seeing? What makes you say that you see that? What makes you see that in this? What more can we find? And it's all kind of techniques around the collective intelligence, creating a safe space. It's the same question for everyone. There's a lot of silence, quietness in the room, a lot of thinking process. Anyway, we can dive into that deeper another time, but visual thinking strategies for people who want to explore it a bit more. An example of where you can start small, just take this example or take this kind of technique and guide a group through it.
Cool. Well, and I think your point on small steps is important. And I do agree with you that if you are in a leadership position, where you pull up these 2 skills is definitely based off of the people, the context, the system. But I do think like I would encourage, even if you're an individual contributor listening to this, like how is integration going to play a role, right? How is facilitative leadership? Doesn't mean you have to be responsible for 10 people, right?
Yep.
In my relationships, how I work with others, how can you practice it to just shift your mindset and how you add value every single day, which is cool.